It's a frost.
So the dirt has to be a certain temperature also.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, they just stunt the growth because you put it in there. The roots love the warmth from inside the home, right? And then all of a sudden you throw them out there. If the dirt is cold and at night it gets a little cold, it just stunts the growth. And sometimes those plants just never.
And how do you check the temperature? You get a thermometer, or you just stick your finger in there?
I stick my finger in there.
Okay.
And then my brain says,
Oh yeah, you're like one of those people. You know, when it's raining, like I can feel it.
well, yeah. Remember we were talking to
Yes.
yeah, to Jeff. Yeah, and he mentioned that that's a genuine.
Yes.
Thing.
Yeah. Well, some people you can figure out the wind, like if you lick your finger or something like that.
Yeah. I used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It works.
It works. It works.
And my knee, since I hurt my knee when I was young playing basketball, that's when I know when it's going to rain. If that knee is throbbing, it's like, okay, it's going to rain tomorrow.
All right. Quiet on set.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today and Mañana. I'm Michael, happy to be joined by Xavier here on a beautiful spring day afternoon. In case you missed earlier, Xavier was giving gardening tips, so if you missed it, it's a little too late.
Too late.
Too late. You had some quick Xavier gardening tips, a new segment on Today. On Today Mañana, you get gardening tips from Xavier. But we're happy to be here on a beautiful day. We're going to be joined shortly by Gabby Gammon from Merriment Digital Marketing. As always, we are happy to be sponsored by Emergent Financial Services and partnering with Matisse Young Realty, Charlottesville Opera, and FABA, the premier Latino networking business group here in Charlottesville. Xavier, happy to be here with you.
Absolutely. It's been some time since you and I are together. Of course, it's now every other week, so it feels longer sometimes.
Probably. Yeah, but it has been long, because I think last time it was you and Alex.
Yeah, last time it was Alex and I, that's correct. Yeah. I mean, it could be, but I tell you, it's, when you watch the beginning of the show, it feels long to me, but when I'm sitting here, it just seems to fly. I mean, I was here just kind of looking at my phone, all of a sudden I hear her talking, I said, already? He got the 3, 2, 1, go.
I know. Watching you feels long for me, too. I'm not going to lie.
I'm talking about watching the introduction. The introduction, young man.
Of the show.
Oh, this is going to be a long 1 hour. I can just see that.
It's going to be a good 1 hour because we got a great guest coming up. So I don't know about you. Are you ready to kind of?
Oh no, absolutely. It'd be great to find out a little bit from Gabby, all about her business and how she started and all that.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, what is digital marketing? I always love to hear what other people think.
Because you're old-fashioned.
Well, no, because I get that on the email. Oh, digital marketing here, digital marketing there. I'm saying, for me, marketing is I pick up the phone, I make a phone call, and I talk to people.
Exactly, because you were marketing in the 80s and 90s, not the 2000s, so things changed a little bit.
Just a little.
Just a little.
That's what I heard.
But we are very happy to be joined by our fantastic guest, Gabby Gammon from Merriment Digital Marketing. Gabby, thank you for coming on.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure.
Did she write in this morning, right?
Yeah.
You had to bring that up.
Yeah.
Just calm down. I mean, listen, we know. I grew up in New York, right? So it's like traffic is just part of the norm. And here, every once in a while, you just get the little, all of a sudden, a little accident here and there. It's like,
I know.
Like yesterday, just get out of the parking lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It was like unbelievable. I couldn't get out. I mean,
because it was an accident like on the 250.
Yeah, and that whole old Ivy road was just backed up and nobody would let me out. Finally, I just kind of snuck in. I said, sorry, guy. I mean, sooner or later, I got to get out of here.
I guess you got that kind of face. No one wants to let you in on the highway. They always let me in.
That could be it. That could be it, yeah.
But anyway, enough traffic. So, Gabby, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you started Merriment Digital Marketing.
Yeah, so I grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia, about an hour away, and I moved here 2 years ago. I was doing marketing for a couple different businesses, and I've always wanted to start my own marketing business. I've been working in the digital marketing space for about 9 years now, and I found the CIC program through a friend of mine, and initially started it with a friend who ended up not finishing the class, and through that, I ended up finishing the class, and it kind of evolved into me thinking about starting my own business seriously, which really hadn't been something I had considered before taking that class. But CIC was great. They walked me through pretty much everything I felt like I needed to start my business, and took a lot of the stress and anxiety out of, really things that I thought were really daunting, like accounting or bookkeeping and that type of thing. So that's how I got started. Like I said, I had always kind of wanted to, but I was nervous about starting my own business. And the reason I started Merriment Digital was because I have mostly worked with small businesses throughout my marketing career, and I felt like the options for small businesses in the marketing space are fairly limited. If you're a small business, often it's really dynamic, you're growing quickly, you're having structure changes, and you're learning how to market your business and how to talk about it. And sometimes, and also your budget isn't that of a large corporation where you can outsource everything to a large company. And I think the small business space needs a company that is willing to kind of match that dynamic space and be willing to adapt with you. So yeah, that's why I started it. I really have a passion for working with small businesses and helping them grow and kind of find their voice and find, their marketing strategy.
So tell us a little bit about digital marketing. I mean, tell me, probably everybody else here knows, but tell me a little bit how, what that is and how that works, and how it evolves, because, if I'm wrong, I know that digital marketing can mean, like, for example, let's say through LinkedIn, maybe, you kind of advertise or send information through that, but that seems there's so many avenues today as to how you can do that, and I'm trying to figure out, kind of like what's the best way, or it depends on the business, what it is that you're trying to market, et cetera.
Yeah, I think, so for me, digital marketing, what I focus on is mainly social media and search visibility. So I do a lot of website work, website updates, making sure that websites are present in the algorithm, and also that social media is active. I think that gets overlooked a lot in the marketing space. A lot of people think that their clients aren't on social media maybe, or, they think, oh, I'm not on social media, so there probably aren't that many other people on social media. But what I like to tell people is, even if none of your clients are on social media, having that social media presence helps your overall visibility as a business. So anything that you have out there on the internet that's promoting your brand, that's consistent with your brand voice, is going to help your visibility as a business owner. So that, I think, is what I talk about the most in the digital marketing space. I also think it's a really dynamic industry where we have AI bringing in a lot of new services, and search algorithms are always evolving. So it's definitely it's an ever-changing space to work in.
Okay.
So what would be the process for someone, let's say they called you up and they say, hey, I want to talk to you about digital marketing. What would be your process like? How do you go step by step for a new potential client or small business?
So what I typically do is I have a free initial consultation to walk through what you're already doing. Do you have a website in place? Do you have a Google profile in place? Are you promoting reviews? Do you have social media? Just kind of walking through that sense of what's already out there. And then from there, we can move forward into what needs to be updated or be created. A lot of what I do also is coaching and consulting. If someone can't afford to outsource their services that they need, I can come into the business and train an employee on that maybe they're wanting to pass off social media to, or blog writing or something like that.
Okay, so basically the goal here is to find as many social media outlets as possible, right? And so, and get me, correct me if I'm wrong, but things like, like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and I know there are now others, right? And have, if you are writing, like you said, blogs. So if I'm writing something about finance, having access to those so that people can then say, okay, Emergent Financial Services, they just put something out there. So is that how it works in a way?
Yeah. So blog posts mostly help your website presence.
Okay.
So the more keywords that you're adding to your website for your industry, Google is going to say, for the Google algorithm, Google is going to pick up on that and boost your website higher in the algorithm because of it. But also, kind of like you said, for existing clients as well, it is really helpful to have that information and know that you're an educational resource. That's something I always promote that people do. If you can kind of position yourselves as that place that people go to learn about industry standards, and you position yourself as an expert in your field, then that's always really helpful to potential and existing clients.
Is there a point where you maybe do too much marketing, or I mean, is there a balance between, hey, there's you're out there on social media, but at the same time you're not overwhelming, where it's like, I've seen this before, and just scroll through it. Yeah,
so you definitely don't want to be repetitive, and so I tell people, and I think for small business owners too, you don't necessarily, it can feel really overwhelming to learn the digital marketing space. So I tell people to start with, get your website well written, do a keyword search, make sure everything's up to date, then get Facebook and Instagram in place. I think those are kind of the core components of a digital marketing presence, and also a Google review profile so that people can leave you local reviews. After that, most of the time, extra stuff you can do is a good thing, but it definitely can get too repetitive. Like if you have old web pages that aren't being used anymore, or maybe old social media pages. I see that a lot, where people have like multiple old social media pages that aren't in use. That can be a problem, but for the most part, as long as you're updating things and keeping them relevant, I would say like the more the better. That helps your business.
So I have a question, because I'm curious, in your marketing experience, how young people view kind of the viability of a business. Like, is it, when they go like an Instagram profile, do they kind of focus, okay, how many posts does this profile have? Or do they kind of first thing look, well, how many followers or how many likes do these posts get? Do these things kind of enter the atmosphere of like, if you're promoting a business, I want you to have a lot of posts, or try to focus on posts that have a lot of likes, or try to get more followers? I'm curious how you kind of approach that.
Yeah, so I mainly focus on engagement. So especially with Instagram and Facebook in the earlier days, it was all about like just getting as many followers as you can and promoting your likes. Now, people can't really necessarily see your likes on Instagram anymore.
Okay.
And I don't think followers matter as much as engagement. So what I try to focus on is just keeping people's attention, posting engaging reels, bright graphics, things that grab people's attention right away. Reels were the most effective form of sales on social media, or short form videos were rather. So I tend to focus on reels and making sure that there's a good balance of follower to non-follower percentage of who's viewing those reels. Because you don't want to just reach your followers. You want to try and reach the community around you. So. Yeah.
Okay. And by reels, you mean kind of like short videos?
Yeah, sorry, I should have clarified. So reels are reels are the short form videos on Instagram.
Okay.
But yeah, short form videos in general were the most effective form of sales on social media in the last year.
And those reels, they have to be like 3 seconds, 1 minute. What's kind of the best, as far as time that people are willing to look at a reel?
I try to grab people's attention in the first 2 seconds. I think that's about what you have. But I've noticed that people tend to drop off, even on a really interesting reel, around 10 to 15 seconds. So, and not everybody, but around 40 to 50% do, in my experience. So, yeah, I try to. They do have to be under 90 seconds for Instagram and Facebook. TikTok can be longer, but I try and keep, as a general rule, my videos around 30 seconds to a minute at longest.
So in order to do that kind of marketing, do you then have to have an account with, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all these people? So yes, but also what I tell people is TikTok really changed the game in digital marketing. So Reels and short form videos are way more common, and they can also be posted across all platforms. So you don't necessarily have to have specific posts for Facebook, specific posts for Instagram and TikTok and YouTube.
It will vary a little bit because of trends, but if you film a short video for Instagram, you can post that on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere, and it will still hopefully get similar amounts of engagement across those platforms. You do have to have accounts, but Facebook and Instagram are linked together, so you can post them through Meta at the same time. And then YouTube is linked to Google, so if you have a Google review profile, chances are you probably have a YouTube account and you don't know about it or haven't set it up. So, yeah, it's not too difficult to get those platforms set up.
And what about like personal brands? Because sometimes people kind of say like you are your brand. Do you also would encourage people to basically be like, well, if you have your own business, also try to create your own Instagram or Facebook profile and try to also promote your business through there? Or do you think it's better just to have one singular focus?
You can definitely promote your business through your personal profile, but your business page should never be one and the same as your personal page.
Got it.
So you do need to have a business page. I do also tell, especially small business owners, that you are the face of your business. So if you're willing to be on camera and kind of get used to that and being in front of your customers on social media, that's definitely, I think, really helpful to an online presence.
Got it. And quick question about your name. What inspired the name Merriment?
Actually, my sister-in-law came up with it. We were just
okay.
brainstorming names, and I wanted something that kind of inspired joy and fun, and she was like, well, what about merriment? And I thought that was a perfect word. So,
Okay,
yeah,
very
that's
cool.
what I went with.
Very cool. And how is it like being your own entrepreneur? Because, you know, we're always kind of curious about, like, what's it like, you know, that jump to going from, like, starting your own business. How does it feel being your own boss?
It's great. It's definitely a challenge. You have to hold yourself accountable, and I've learned a lot about time management and, just setting deadlines for myself. But I think it's a lot of fun, and it's always changing, so I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, I know the CIC program because my other son is on the board. And it's incredible how many people we meet, right, that have gone through that program and how good that program really is. And I guess it's because...
our guest 2 weeks ago, Viva La Nash.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes,
that's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
she was
on
CIC,
that too.
yes.
Exactly. And,
Yeah, she
and
was
I think,
actually in my class.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, how do you like
Very
that?
cool,
Yeah, she's great.
So, and part of it is when I think about it, is because, you know, most people have they have a passion for whatever it is that they like to do. And it's doing that they enjoy. What they don't realize is when you start your own business, there's other things that you have to be part of. Like for you, marketing is probably not difficult because that's what you're selling, right? But the idea of keeping the books, the accounting, you know, taxes, etc., all that is like, wow, I also have to do that and keeping the book straight. So they said that nice thing about CIC is that it brings that to the forefront, and you can now try to figure out, okay, what are the things that I need to do? And sometimes, you know, you look at it and say, yeah, this is not as bad as I thought, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it sounds silly, but I think for years that was something that held me back from starting my own business, was just because I was terrified of doing accounting and bookkeeping. I'm bad at math. That is not my strength. So it seemed really daunting. And then, like you said, when I went through CIC and I actually learned about it, I was like, you know, this isn't actually that bad. I work with spreadsheets and data all the time
Right.
in marketing, so it's not as difficult as I thought.
Yeah.
So basically, when we think of digital marketing, would you say that the most important thing of all is, if, like, for example, if you write blogs, is to have those blogs up to date and kind of don't let them get stale? And the other thing I notice is I see a lot of people in our business, what they do is they'll see an article out there and they'll take that article and post it to their blog. Is that a good idea or a bad idea, or is the idea just to always have something new, whether it's your article or not?
I would definitely add your own take to an article and not just take someone else's. Like I said, if nothing else, just for the sake of positioning yourself as an expert in your field, in your community. I think it is important to keep your website in general from getting stale. So I try to run for my clients like regular keyword updates, see what's trending in the industry. and keep that relevant, because with search algorithms as well, it does take them a few weeks to learn changes that you make to the website. So it's important to stay on top of those trends and make sure you're staying relevant.
Got it. Okay, so thank you so much, Gabby, for coming on. If someone's interested in getting into contact with you, how can they do that? It's the best way to reach you.
Probably my email address. So
Okay.
that's Gabby, Gabby @merrimentdigital.com. And then my Instagram handle is @merrimentcville. So anybody can reach me there as well.
Awesome. And you
Yeah.
said first consultation is free?
Yes.
Awesome.
Always.
Okay, so
That's
people
great.
should check
That's
that
great.
out.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Thanks.
It's a great
Yeah.
way to find out everything
Exactly.
you're doing wrong.
And I'm sure there's stuff you're doing wrong.
Cool.
Yeah, Gabby, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for
I
coming
appreciate
on.
it.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
No, it's our pleasure. Our pleasure.
That was
So
good.
now
yeah.
it's kind of so we rotate. Yeah, what was that, Pops?
I said that was good. You know, I'm always amazed. You know, I mean, this stuff to me is like
Greek.
Chinese,
It's Greek, yeah.
Chinese, whatever you want to call
Greek
it.
to me, that's
Greek
the
to me.
phrase,
That's
yeah.
right. That's the word. But you realize how important this is in today's world, right? Because in the old days, you'd send mailings and you follow up with
Sure, you
phone
did
calls,
newspaper
newspaper
ads.
ads, etc.
Exactly.
But in today's world, your website obviously is a key component because you want traffic to go there. I mean, I would assume that's the most important thing for us is, how do we get traffic to our website so they can then learn a little bit more about ourselves. So obviously that's the key component, and I would assume that that's what digital marketing tries to do, is try to get your name to the forefront of everything, so that when somebody's looking for an advisor in Virginia, you're up there on the top as opposed to at the bottom of the
And let's
list.
be honest, we were just talking about Jerry before. Everything now, too, in our world is digital. I mean, everything you want to do is digital. It's just so in the end, if you have no digital presence or you're not getting a good digital presence, you're behind other people who, in the end, you could have a better product or better service, but they have a better digital presence, and that matters.
Yeah.
In today's world. So, you kind of have to be on top of that, and it's tough because, especially for people in your generation, I'm barely on the cusp of this too, but it's like we didn't grow up in a digital world.
No.
I mean, you technically have a Facebook. When's the last time you were on your Facebook? You probably don't even know how to use it.
I log in.
You log in, you probably don't even know your password. It's probably automatic.
I don't know my password.
I mean, to be fair, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, it's an important part of people's businesses now, so it's something that you have to keep an eye on, and you have to keep updating and, kind of put some effort into it, because that's how people are going to find you. And then if they like you, they're not going to basically, I bet you in today's age too, it's not like, people probably tell each other verbally that they like someone, but, like Gabby was saying, Google reviews or Instagram comments, maybe someone's like, oh, this person makes a great croissant, right? People's like, oh, wow, this person says that this person makes a great croissant. I mean, listen, sometimes you go on Amazon. I know Mama does. When you want to buy something, it's like, oh, look, it's got like 5 stars, so you should buy it. Then, in a way, that's kind of like digital marketing. If someone's getting good Google reviews, like, well, look, this person said this Chinese restaurant's excellent.
Exactly.
Exactly. So that may prompt you to go there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I mean, listen, I recognize that's how it works, right? And to a certain respect, that's why you need somebody to help you with that, because, what is it I love to do? Obviously, I enjoy research, imagine.
You enjoy the dancing TikTok videos.
I do that on the side when I'm at home.
Okay, they're private handle. I forgot about
that's
that.
a private thing, but at work, I'm not going to spend my time, trying to figure out digitally how do we,
Exactly.
throw emergent. I'm doing some research. This thing is down. That thing is up.
And you've been doing research, haven't you? Because things have been pretty crazy. It's been surf waves in the market recently.
That's right, exactly. But it's amazing. We always say that, and some people probably say, yeah, that's probably overblown. But chaos creates opportunities, right? And really, in the last 2 weeks, it's just been amazing what's happened in the marketplace. And how many opportunities we have seen where it's like, man, that ETF or mutual fund, whatever, you do the research, you look at the underlying securities, you go, man, I think it's cheap, right? So you find, where can we do a swap? Is there an opportunity to take advantage of that? So to me, that's the fun part, right? Because it's like you find this, kind of diamond in the rough is what I call it, and say, how do I position my clients so they can take advantage of this and then kind of ride that wave up, right? Because when markets are this crazy, especially crazy in the sense that there's down markets.
Well, and not just down markets, just volatile markets. I mean, there is a sense that day in and day out, you really don't know what's going to happen because, hey, a new tariff just pops up and the market goes down like 10%. And then the next day it's like, no, the tariff's lifted and now it goes back up 10%. I'm like, I don't know exactly what's going to happen today.
Well, in the end, it's always uncertainty is what causes issues, right? But I thought what has been amazing in this particular year, right? If you take a look at this year, right, all the way through March 31st, right, the stock market was down. In reality, the sectors that were down were almost expected in the sense of, irregardless of the tariffs and everything's going on, tech, discretionary.
And to be fair, not to toot your own horn, but I remember we did a show in December and we were saying that those top 10 companies, S&P 500, were overvalued or something like that. What their market price was far beyond what there was a price to earnings ratio was. Something
not only
lines.
that, but their value.
Yes.
I mean, 10 companies, when you looked at over 3,000 securities in the stock market, they represented over 30% of the entire stock market.
And it's and tech had reached such a high point that there was bound to be some sort of correction.
Exactly. And yes, we took it, we obviously did something about that. Yeah. We didn't know, like we told our clients, is it going to happen this year? Next year? We don't know. But historically, this cannot continue. And therefore, we're kind of restructuring portfolios really to begin to, mitigate some of that risk. Boy, I mean, tech is down like 17% this year, right? So consumer discretionary is down about 16%. So coming into this year, we saw challenges. We said, listen, credit card debt is through the roof, right? So where's the consumer going to go? Where's he going to borrow, right? I mean, the consumer is not like the U.S. government when they just print more money, right? They can't do that, right? So sooner or later, they say, I can no longer pay my credit card debt, and so I need to stop borrowing, and I can't borrow to pay off debt because that's just a circular, getting worse, go down the rabbit hole there, right? And two, tech was just unbelievable the kind of last 2 years they've had. So we felt like those two areas were challenges, right? Coming into 2025 and maybe 2026. We didn't know exactly when, right? Well, hold and behold, those two sectors are the worst two sectors really through yesterday, right? But the interesting is that it's really the first 3 months of those two sectors just got crushed, right? It's really April has been quite interesting to me, right? Because in April you had a few things going on. One is you had long-term interest rates rise. So, interest rates of the 5-year security out to the 30-year, interest rates went up, especially in the 30-year. They're up about 20 basis points, right? 20 or 30 basis points. Same thing with the 10-year, right? So you had, at the beginning of the year, rates come down. The bond market was positive. Stocks were negative. You had a balance there, right? We always say it's a nice balance. Okay, the stock market's down, but the bond market's up. So your portfolio as a whole isn't getting crushed, right? All of a sudden, April comes, stock market continues to go down. Not just tech. Energy prices, because of the fact that oil is down. Oil went from 72 to 63. Yeah. So energy is down. Those two sectors continue to get hammered, right? And bonds are now down. Spreads of credit and things like high yield spreads, corporate spreads, they've widened out, meaning that they've become cheaper, right? So in 15 days in April, what has happened those 15 days is incredible from the perspective of how the markets have reacted to, yes, what the tariffs may do to our economy. In other words, and We heard our lovely, Fed chairman yesterday talk about inflation and possible slowdown in the economy, right? So we sit here and everybody is talking about the same thing. Boy, oh boy, these tariffs are going to cause inflation. So if we're going to have inflation, two things are going to happen, right? Long-term interests are going to go up. Short-term interest rates may come down because the Fed's going to have to think about, if we go also into an economic slowdown, does the Fed lower rates, right? So the market is such in chaos and saying, well, yeah, if the economy starts to go down, we got to cut short-term interest rates.
Yeah.
But if there's inflation, well, how's the Fed going to cut short-term interest rates because we got inflation, right? So all that has just entered into the space of the market, creating, obviously a very negative environment. But in doing that, right, you take a look at everything that's out there, and there are a number of funds that you just look at these funds and you go, man, these things are like being priced extremely attractive in the sense that they're priced to the worst already.
Yes.
At least in my opinion, and you sit there, that's just, even if that happens and I'm making 13, 14%, right, just on interest, I'm willing to take that risk because even if the market goes down another 7%, I still got 7% in my pocket, right? So situations like that is what I say is it creates opportunities. It creates the ability for you to look at your portfolio and say, how do I restructure my portfolio to take advantage of some of these opportunities? And again, we're not talking about selling everything and buying these. We're talking about opportunistic situations where you say, I can take some funds and invest in these particular sectors because we think that they're overdone, right? But, it's, Again, the markets are, in a way, they're very myopic, and it's like, what is happening today? And the word inflation and recession are words that are being thrown out by every other economist out there, and so it gets very nervous, right? But you take a step back and you say to yourself, if you're going to negotiate anything, and in this case, we're talking about tariffs with countries, but if you're going to negotiate anything, it's not a simple where, you say, I want this price, and the other guy says, no, I want that price, and then it's like, okay, let's meet in the middle. It's not as simple as that because we're talking about countries where there are multiple products, right? And so whatever country comes to our table and say, listen, we want to negotiate the tariffs. It's not as simple saying, okay, you said 40%, we want only 20%. Okay, done. It doesn't work that way, right? Because we're sitting there saying, well, it's not just that, but you don't allow us to sell even this product, right? Because this is what you do, and you don't allow us to sell that product because basically you then say, well, you feed your cows corn, and we don't eat cows, right? That eat corn at the last minute. Therefore, we don't want to buy those cows, right? So the negotiations that we have to do with each one of these countries is long term. And I think what's happened is you throw the shock out there and saying, this is what we're going to do. We're just going to tariff you to the point where it's like, well, this can't happen because if this happens, this country's going under. So we need to sit down with you and negotiate. So I think the whole process is going to take some time. But I think the markets don't like that. The markets would like to be able to say...
The markets, I think sometimes, Nick always talks about this too, they don't react on reality, they react on the news. And it's very possible that what happened was the market took such a hit because their worst case scenario was, oh my gosh, there are going to be tariffs on every country, on everything, so hence the market crashes. Well, the reality is probably that's not going to be the case. So your hope is that eventually, because they prepared for the worst now, as the reality sets in, if we get a better picture of what's actually going to happen, the markets might begin to start slowly correct itself. It's like, okay, we sold out. We thought the worst was going to happen, and it's not quite like that. And I remember you had to talk some clients off the ledge because they were like, the market went down a couple of days. They're like, oh my gosh, should I sell everything? Should I go straight to cash? And it was just like, I don't think that's a good idea, But it's kind of tricky, just I think navigating. And my only question to you is, okay, so let's say you say there are opportunities to buy. If someone says, well, my portfolio's down right now, how do I figure out how to use this opportunity to buy? Like, how do I figure out? Because you don't want to necessarily sell on the low end of something just to buy into it. So how would you navigate that?
It's hard to give that kind of advice only because you need to know exactly what's in somebody's portfolio. Somebody says, I have the S&P 500 in my portfolio, and then I got another ETF. I got 2 ETFs, and they're both down. Yeah, the opportunity is you've reduced the option in your portfolio because you only have 2 things, right?
Yeah.
Second of all, are we talking about a retirement account, or we're talking about an individual account? If it's an individual account, are you still carrying, gains from those particular positions? Are you now carrying losses, right? So there's a lot that goes on into that decision. In the retirement account, yes, you can say, listen, okay, you got the S&P 500. This is what's happened. Is there another way to diversify that portfolio so you now take advantage of other things out there, right? Yeah. But when you have a portfolio that's already diversified and you've got, anywhere between 10 and 15 funds out there, right? That's where the opportunities come, because you look at a fund and say, this is what I meant. We had a fund the other day that's like, I realized that fund is up like 4% this year, right? Yeah. I looked at, why is it up 4%? I realized why it was up 4%, that this is good, but the chances of that continuing, it's possible, right? But the probabilities are low, right? So I need to swap out of that. What do I do in order to buy something that I think is now going to provide, upturn? And is it going to happen, this year or next year? I don't know exactly, but I look at it saying over the long run, this is going to be an opportunity. So little things like that is what you're working with, right? So that's what's always, for me, that's the fun part, is when things are just kind of moving along and nothing's happening, it's just blah. There's not much to do. So
people have you to blame, because people probably like when things are blah and they seem like, I need some action here. I need some.
That's he's causing
exactly.
this.
Some people like when the ocean's nice and calm and they got the little board and they get sort of. Xavier's like, I like the waves.
That's true. I like the waves. I like to go in there and do something. Not that you go in there and you walk a mile and it's like, okay, what's going to happen now? But it's just. We're in that time frame right now where there's just, again, the uncertainties are incredible. We will get out of it, right? Like everything else. Listen, in 2022 we had bonds down with 14%, the stocks were down 22%, right? Yeah. We had inflation through the roof. And listen,
the following 2 years were stock market wise, they were fantastic.
Exactly. So sometimes you have to ride the downturns also, again, make sure that you've got a situation where you're not over leveraged, there are people that leverage their portfolios. If you want to do that, that's fine, but that's where the risk comes in, because you're leveraged on the way up, you're also leveraged on the way down, right?
That's true.
So that's the thing you have to worry about. But otherwise, make sure that your portfolio is doing what you want it to do, and it's being protected in such a way that when the markets go down, you're not over there saying, oh my Lord, my portfolio is now down 30%, and what do I do, right? That's a terrible thing,
So there was something that you brought to my attention that you wanted me to talk about was an interesting stat that says in 2024, retail closures reached their highest level since the pandemic, according to Coresight Research, with a total of 7,325 locations shuttering. I guess shutting down.
Yeah.
Shutting down.
No, and that's so. And when I started before, right? I talked a little bit about the fact that the 2 sectors that were down was technology and discretionary, right? Consumer discretionary, and that's exactly an example. In other words, before the year came in, we looked at the economy. We said, this economy is kind of wavering on fumes to a certain respect, right? It's kind of running on fumes here. And that's kind of proof of the fact that there were a number of small companies that just couldn't make it last year, right? And it's kind of, I think, since the COVID era, right? And so you sit there and you say, we see that. We begin to see that happening, right? And we had a lot of money from the government come in and bail out a lot of people. A lot of people just had money that they didn't know what to do with. So some put it in the market, others just spend it. They wanted to continue to spend. They borrowed and borrowed more. And now they're sitting there going, oops, right, I can no longer borrow, right? So I think that's the consumer side. Same thing with businesses, right? The consumer stop spending, small businesses are the first ones to get hit, right?
Yeah.
So I think we began to see that last year. And our feeling was that there's a probability that that was going to run through 2025, right? So coming into this year, we were nervous about the stock market. We were nervous about the economy. And obviously the tariffs have thrown another little monkey wrench into that in a sense, because again, tariffs are in the short run challenging for the consumer if it truly goes through. And I mean, what's sad is that these tariffs haven't been in effect yet, and everybody's complaining about them. Well, they haven't been. They put them in April 4th, and then they postponed them. So we haven't really done anything yet, other than China. We haven't charged anybody anything. So the idea that inflation is ready to kick in here, how and when?
Yeah, and my only hope about the China thing, I mean, some of the goods that we do get from China, and people have always made these complaints, because this is sometimes one of the few uniparty issues, is that, we buy things from China because they're cheaper, when in reality, a lot of small businesses have the same things that we buy from Chinese products. Yes, they may be slightly higher technically in price, but it would be better just to kind of shop locally, because a lot of the stuff you end up buying, maybe at a dollar store, Walmart, that's from China, you can buy from a small business, especially like, for example, in Charlottesville, you have a lot of small businesses that you can buy some of those products and whatever accessories from a small business that, yes, it may be, a little more expensive, but at least now you know who you're giving the money to. It's made here, you're giving it to a local person, you're helping your local community. That's the only positive I can at least see. It's like, make people wake up to the fact that it's like, you can be buying a better product, yes, slightly more expensive, but a better product that's made locally, like right here, and helping your local community rather than just kind of buying the cheap China good that's come from the sweatshop.
Exactly. And listen, and force companies like, obviously Walmart is one of those companies that buys an enormous amount from China, right? And you go there, and every time you look, it's like, you're looking to find something that says made in USA, and you can't, right? So eventually what happens is, if those products then became as expensive as the ones made here, Walmart no longer needs to go to China to buy that. They can go here. So now you go to Walmart, it's like, okay, so instead of buying, a one of those kitchen things that cost you, scissor, whatever. Then instead of buying one that costs you $2, right, which they're crap anyway, but it costs you $2. Now you're paying one that costs you $4. And it's probably better made.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's 100% increase, but it's only $2, right? I mean, it's not the end of the world. You're not going to, and instead of buying two, you only buy one because maybe you only need one, right? So that kind of thing. I think the mentality of the consumer will change to the point where it's like, do I really need that, or do I need two of that, or can I do it one, right? So I think that's what's going to happen over time, is that the consumer is going to hopefully become more educated and say, and more sophisticated to the point to say, do I just buy because it's cheap and I can buy more, or do I sit back and say, wait a minute, I want to make sure that I get some quality, and if I'm getting quality, then I know that I got to be looking for made in the USA, right? And that helps everybody, including the U.S. American worker, the U.S. economy. Taxes are they're going to go up, right? In the sense of, people are getting bigger salary, they're paying, their income tax. So overall, it's good for the country.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's, they're interesting times. They're challenging times. As you said, anytime, when the market's going up, nobody calls.
Yeah.
Nobody ever calls and say, is my portfolio okay? Because the market's going up, right? Nobody ever calls. But when the market's going down, yes, you're going to get the phone calls, and it's expected. And the important thing is, to explain to people, and your clients, and say, here's your portfolio, here's where we're invested, this is our goal, this is what we're trying to do. And in the end, it works out, because if you did what you planned to do for them in the first place, right, and you were clear as to what your goals were, and they understood those goals for them, most of the time when you come back to them and say, oh yes, that's right, I remember, this is what I wanted, and that's what's good. So, but it's that's what happens during this time.
I think as time goes on, answers will reveal themselves, I guess.
Yeah.
But
it's like I said, I've been living long enough that I've seen lots of market crashes. we survived.
Hey, I've lived
Came
long.
out.
I've seen one too.
That's right. That's right. You have, yeah. So, it's. I think in the long run, whether it's this administration or the next administration or some other administration, sooner or later we have to take a step back and say, we can no longer continue as a country whereby we don't make our medicines here. Mm-hmm. We no longer make steel here. There's so many products we don't make in this country, which we can make in this country. And I think it's time that we say, hey, we have to be able to make certain amount of products in this country whereby if something goes wrong somewhere, right, we're not depending on another country, because I don't care who your friends are, and especially with medicines. If you need a medicine and they need a medicine, they're not going to be sending it to you. They're going to use it for their own citizens, which I understand. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying I understand. So you just got to make sure that everything you need for your own citizens, you are able to make in this country. And the longer we wait, the more difficult it's going to be.
Agreed. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts.
You're welcome. Thoughts that you've never heard, right?
Hey, listen, maybe there was someone watching the show who was like panicking, and now they're like, wow, after hearing Xavier talk,
I'm more panicking.
I feel better. Why is he happy that everything keeps going up and down? I love this. I like the mundane. But anyway, so a lot to think about and ponder. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what the next couple of months bring, It's spring now, so you have to be hopeful now.
That's right.
Everything's blooming.
That's right.
The stock market
Spring's eternal. Yeah. I know. It's true. This is a good time of year time to sit back. Like I always say,
time to start planting your garden.
Yeah. Listen,
whether that's
the reason you have financial advisors is you let them have sleepless nights, and you stay home and relax and know that they're doing the best for you, right? Yeah. That's the way it works, right? And that's the way it should be, right? But go out there and take care of your garden and make sure everything grows properly, and be with nature and let us do the work.
Maybe the next Today Mañana show will start with a gardening segment. Xavier will bring his little pot. See this one? See, this one needs a little more water. See, this one's got
I started all from seed this year, so we'll see how it goes.
I know. I got a lot of them. You got the little water bottle spray.
I got a lot of them that have come up.
You look like an expert. He's even got like the warming pad.
Yeah, the mat, the little mat to make them grow. The light.
Exactly.
Right, because the first time I did it, I had no mat, no nothing, and it's like they grew and then they flopped. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? It looks easy when I see other people, so you start doing the research and it's like, all right, here we go. Yeah, they're cheating. Exactly. Got these mats, they got the lights.
It's like those cooking shows where, it's like they put in the oven, but they already got a one already made. That came out perfect. Because that one in the oven, how do you know that one's going to come out perfect? It might come out bad. Maybe the one that they pulled out took 4 tries to get perfect. They're like, look at this. It's perfect.
That was the one thing, the one thing I used to love about the first shows of Julia Child was it was live, and sometimes didn't come out right, and it was good because you said, that happens sometimes, and it's true. It's like
more butter,
more butter.
Stop the show. But no, it was great having you on, Pops.
Same here.
It was great having our guest Gabby Gammon joining us. Next week or 2 weeks from now, we might have Charlottesville Opera. We might not. Kind of still in flux in negotiation, so you have to check
negotiations.
But you have to check the show to see if they're on or not. So there you go. Or we might have another mystery guest. You never know. But as always, we are happy to be presented by Emergent Financial Services, powered by our wonderful sponsors, Mattisio and Realty, Charlottesville Opera. Always a big thank you to the I Love CVille studio for having us, for Judah behind the camera to making us look good. Thanks to Xavier, and of course, thank you to all our viewers. I know I didn't get a chance. When Xavier and I are on, we don't have the digital presence, which we need to work on. But thank you to anyone who commented, liked, and shared or subscribed.
Like, share, and subscribe.
There you go. He got it in. He forgot this morning, but he just got it in now. But always a big thank you to our viewers for making this possible. We wouldn't be here without them. We look forward to seeing everyone next time. But until then, hasta mañana.